morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear? Is it working?
Yes.
Oh, it's exciting. Hi, my name is Amy Abedisian. I am a member of the Commission on Aging and Persons with Disabilities. We are sponsoring this program today about the voting and all the details of voting, and we have a lot of lovely people here to speak with you who are experts on this topic. I will let them introduce themselves when we get around to that. The table over there in the middle are my colleagues from the Commission on Aging. We have a total of how many people on our commission? Six people. Anyone who is interested can come and attend a meeting and does not need to sign up to be a member. They can come as part of the public and check us out. We meet here on Tuesday. It was second, is it right? Second Tuesday? First Tuesday of the month here at 7 o'clock, right? Okay, so feel free if you would like to find out more about the Commission on Aging, come join us. All right, now to our program. Hello, would you like to, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Anita Posniak. I'm the town clerk here in Windsor. I've been with the town going on 19 years. So in the town clerk's office, we are one of the election administrators, and we handle absentee ballots.
Anita Mips, one of the registrars of voters, and we handle making sure your voter registration is up to date if you give us the correct information.
Victoria Virgo Christie, and I'm also one of the registrars, and I am Anita. We work together to try and make sure that everyone gets their vote.
My name's Agnes Peer. I am a member of the League of Women Voters. Our focus is on educating the voters and to make the information as widely accessible as possible.
So our presenters will speak a bit about what they do and how they do it, and then it will be opened up for questions from all of you.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes.
So good morning. Thank you for having me here today. So the goal today is for you to walk away from here today and to know what your options are for voting, and not just for yourself, but hopefully if you have any family members, you can also be a liaison for us to educate them so that they know how to access a ballot, especially for the upcoming presidential election, which is on November 5th. You're not on. I need to be closer. Wait. I got it. I got to point it the right way.
There you go. You went to the second one, though.
All right, I'm just going to go back one screen.
There you go.
So just as, again, I'm just going to introduce us. So Anita Mips is our Democratic Registrar of Voters, and Victoria is our Republican Registrar of Voters. I'm your town clerk. Agnes actually is responsible for hiring me. She was my predecessor. She's the former town clerk. So she's also very knowledgeable about elections, and we're super glad that she's here in her capacity with the League of Women Voters, but also as a previous town clerk who can offer up some insight as well. All right. So we want to make sure that in this election and every election that you have the opportunity to make your vote count. So whether you want to vote by absentee ballot, early voting, which is new this year, or at the polls, I just want to let you know that our elections in this town are safe and secure, and everyone's vote is always counted. So who can vote? So to be eligible to vote, you need to be a U.S. citizen, 18 years, at least 18 years or older. Or if you're an expat who's living abroad, you are also still eligible to vote, even though you are residing in a foreign country. And U.S. citizens who are 17 years old, with a little asterisk next to it, are eligible to vote in any primary as long as they're going to be 18 by the time that general election happens. So if there was a student here in town who was 17 at the presidential preference primary in April or the August primary, they could have voted in that because the November, if they turned 18 before November. All right, so important registration deadlines that you need to know about. So I'm hoping everybody here in the room is registered, but if you're not, you can still do that. So in person, you can register at Town Hall on August 18th. The registrars are going to be there from 9 a.m. To 8 p.m. and that's on a Friday. Where else would you ladies love to be on a Friday evening?
On our day off.
You can still mail in your voter registrations. They do need to be received or postmarked by the 18th. And lastly, you can always register online at ct.gov. And on that website, when you're registering, it does close at 11:59 on October 18th. So there's still time to register to vote. But don't worry, it's not too late. So we in the state of Connecticut we have same-day registration, which allows any individual who's not registered to vote on either during early voting, which runs from October 21st through November 3rd, or on election day, which is November 5th. And our same-day registration location is Town Hall. And I know I saw a couple of you saying that should have 2 O's in it. Correct. That's a graphic I pulled off the internet, and I caught that it was wrong. But what I want to point out is that even though I got that from the internet, not everything you read on the internet is correct. So there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there. So please do not make the internet your only source of information. If you have any concerns, if you start seeing any news reports or social media, blasts out there that are saying that the polls are going to be closed or this is not going to happen, anything contrary to what I'm saying today, please call us to confirm. We are glad to provide accurate voting information for our residents. Okay, so what are my options? Your options are absentee voting, early voting, and election day voting. So, absentee voting is for any registered voter who cannot appear at the polls on election day. So, and they're in the state of Connecticut, there are 5 reasons. So it's either due to your military service, that you're going to be absent from town on the day of the election, a sickness, a religious tenet that will prevent you from doing a secular activity on the day of the election, or a physical disability.
Looking at the polls.
And, working at the polls, especially if you're not working at the poll, that is where you would typically vote. So I do want to point out, as of 2022, the word "my" in front of sickness and physical disability was taken out of state statute. And that's it's very intentionally so that, one, if you're a caregiver and you have a family member at home and you can't leave to go to the polls to vote, you are now eligible to vote an absentee ballot. We actually heard very concerns from many people over the years that they didn't feel that it was accurate and that they would be lying on the application because they weren't sick or they didn't have a disability, it was their family member. And then also, if there's sickness out there, if the flu's out there, if we have another pandemic, if you're concerned about going to the polls for that reason, you're eligible to receive an absentee ballot. All right, so there are many different types of ballots. So let's go over those. So we have what's your typical regular absentee ballot. We have military ballots, which are either 90 days or 45 days. We have the overseas ballot. We have permanent absentee ballots and supervised ballots, and lastly, emergency ballots. So a regular absentee ballot, this is about what 90% of the people will actually use. They will either complete the state of Connecticut ED3 application form, which we have applications with us today, or you can pick those up at Town Hall. You can download the PDF of that on the town website, which is townofwindsor.ct.com, or you can go on to the state website, which is ct.gov, and you can now go on to a secure online portal to submit your absentee ballot application, which just comes right to our CVRS, which is the Connecticut Voter Registry System, and it alerts us that there's applications ready for us, and we just simply print them and process them as we normally would. So ballots for the election are going to be going out tomorrow, October 4th. So they're available 31 days prior to an election and 21 days prior to any primary. Military ballots, as you can tell from the name, are issued to any of our servicemen, their spouses, or dependents. So anyone in the military will go on to a safe federal portal where they can submit what's called their federal postcard application, or the FPCA, and that will come to us also electronically. And then once they submit that FPCA, I will then mail the military servicemen or their family what's referred to as a blank absentee ballot. I think you're all familiar with the ballot that we have where all the names are pre-printed with the ovals to fill in. But because we're sending these out 90 and 45 days before the election, the final list of candidates hasn't been determined. So we send them the blank ballot and then a list of the candidates that we know, and if there's any changes to that, I have to send updated lists to them. They handwrite their information into this blank ballot that I send to them, and they have to print that, and then they have to mail that, and I have to receive the absentee ballot by the close of polls on 8 o'clock. So the difference between the 90-day and a 45-day ballot, does anybody have an idea why we need a 90-day military ballot in Connecticut? All right, so as you may know, down in Groton, we have a submarine base. So any of these servicemen who are on a submarine typically go down for at least 90 days at minimum. So that's why we have the 90-day to accommodate the servicemen who are in Groton. All right, so the overseas ballot is issued to voters who are temporarily residing overseas or permanently residing overseas. So if you're temporarily residing overseas, you receive what's referred to as a full ballot, meaning that you can vote for, in this particular election, president, senator, U.S. congressman, state representative, state, senator, and for our registrar of voters, of course. But if you are permanently living abroad and you're an expat, the only thing that you will receive are the federal offices. So in this particular election, it would be president, U.S. senator, and U.S. representative. So very much like the military voters, I receive their FPCAs electronically, and then I email the ballot, the blank ballot, to them and a list of the candidates, and then they print that, they vote, and then they also have to mail the hard ballot to us. Nobody can submit a ballot electronically, and I do need to receive that by the close of polls on election night. So we have a permanent absentee ballot. So this applies to anyone who has a permanent disability or sickness that would prevent them from going to the polls to vote. So what this voter needs to do is submit an absentee ballot application along with a note from the doctor saying that due to their medical condition, they're unable to go to the polls. This will put them on a list of voters that will automatically receive an absentee ballot for every election, with exception to the annual budget referendum, which legally I cannot mail out a ballot to anyone, and that also includes this category of permanent absentee voters. All right, supervised voting. Supervised voting is meant for any voter that resides in a nursing home, an assisted living facility, and other institutions that qualify. So basically, if at one of these facilities there are 20 or more registered voters, they're eligible to be a supervised voting location. Our registrar of voters work very closely with the nursing homes in town. We have 3 of them, and they will communicate with them in advance to let them know that these are the dates that we're going to come out. And it's 2 days. They go out for 2 visits. The first visit is to assist the residents at the facilities with completing their absentee ballot application. And then they bring those applications back to my office where we process the ballots. And then they go out a second time with those ballots that my office prepared and assist the voters there with completing the ballots. So every voter is entitled to be able to vote privately, but if they do need assistance and if they request, the registrar of voters will help them. And always 2 people need to be present, one from the Democratic Party and one from the Republican Party, to be certain that the residents' wishes on what candidate they want is filled in on that ballot. And we have the emergency ballot. So any voter that finds themselves 6 days prior to the election, so that's the Wednesday before the election, either sick, injured, went into the hospital or nursing home, is eligible for an emergency ballot. So this one, though, requires a lot of legwork from the designee. So when you find yourself in this situation and you want to take advantage of the emergency ballot, you want to make sure you're finding a family member who's willing to make multiple trips. As that family member will first come pick up the application, bring the application to the voter. As the voter has to complete the application, they'll return that application back to the town clerk's office. We will prepare a ballot. We'll hand the ballot to that designee, who will then take it to the voter, who will then vote the ballot, and then the designee has to hand deliver it back to our office. So an important point that I'm making here in this that I don't know that I made in any other slides is that the voter always has to complete the application on their own. If they have someone assisting them with the application, there's a portion on that application where the individual has to identify themselves as assisting that person. And every voter in this country under the U.S. Constitution has the right to vote privately. So that's where I was mentioning that they would go and bring that and bring it back. So we can't hand another person's ballot to another person because we don't know who's going to fill out that ballot. So that's why we always have to mail the ballots to the voters. All right, and then we have accommodations for print disabilities. So a print disability is any barrier a voter may have with using traditional print materials due to, excuse me, a perceptual, physical, or visual disability. So if anyone needs to take advantage of that, they would go on to ct.gov and go to the Secretary of the State's office, and there is an absentee ballot application that is accessible for these readers that individuals would be using. A voter will complete the application with the assistance of their reader, and then they will indicate on a box that they need an accessible ballot to be delivered to them. From there, I will mail this voter the envelopes and instructions that they need without the actual paper ballot. And then I reach out to the Secretary of the State and inform the Secretary of the State they need to email an accessible ballot to that voter. That voter will receive that email. When they open it, the ballot is electronic, but it can only be read by their reader, their screen reader. So it's not something that someone can try to take advantage of this, because if you try opening it and you don't have one of those screen readers, you're not going to be able to access the ballot. And then after they fill out the ballot, they're going to print that, and then they'll deliver that to the town clerk's office. And as of 2020, we have absentee ballot drop boxes now. So the absentee ballot drop box is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are required to have that box open 31 days prior to an election and 21 days prior to any primary. You can drop off applications or your voted ballot rather. And as of this year, we are required to have video monitoring on that box. And also the town clerks are required to go out to the box every weekday at least once a day. But I can tell you with the presidential election, we're usually out there 2 or 3 times a day, including the weekend, even though we're not required on the weekend. All right, so where is our absentee ballot drop box located? It's located in our rear parking lot of Town Hall. So if you're familiar with our back parking lot, it's kind of broken up into sections by these little green and trees and all that. It's the one right next to the tax collector's payment box. Ours looks exactly like you see on that screen. It's white. It says official ballot drop box. Again, you can also put applications in it. And you can put that in there, like I said, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right, so as of 2024, we also now have early voting. So early voting location in Windsor is in our Ludlow room, which is on the first floor of Town Hall. It's our meeting room, which is to the right of the slide. When you walk in through the sliding glass door, it's to the right. It's a glassed-in room, and that is the early voting location for anybody in town. Doesn't matter what district you're in. For early voting, you go to this one location, and the time frame differs by each election. So it's 4 days for the presidential preference primary, or a regular or a special election rather. It's 7 days before a primary and 14 days prior to the general election. And during this time of early voting, you can also do same-day registration, which allows you to register as a voter and then immediately apply for or immediately vote. Thank you. All right, so how do you early vote? So it closely mimics the polling location when you go out on election day to some extent, but there are some differences. You will need to present ID as you do on election day. You'll walk up to the election worker, and the election worker actually has a computer in front of them. And what they're doing is they're going into CVRS. Again, that's our central voter registry system, a state system where all of the registered voters are in the database. And they're going to look up your information to confirm you are a registered voter. But we're also required to have a second person who's crossing off their name as well as a backup in case something happens with the computers. Once they've confirmed that they're a voter, they're going to place a label on an envelope, and the voter will proceed to get a ballot as well. From there, you'll very much like on election day, you go over to your booth, you vote privately as you normally would, and then you're going to insert that ballot into an envelope. From there, you're going to proceed to another table, and you're going to check out. They're going to scan your ballot and to indicate that you voted. And this is very important because what it's doing, it's a check and balance in our system to ensure that someone doesn't get the right to vote twice. And it's the same procedures that we use with absentee ballots. When ballots come back, we scan them into CVRS, and that automatically, in the case of an absentee ballot, puts an A next to that person's name, and for early voting, an E next to their name. So election workers who are working at the polls, if you walk in and you have an A or an E next to your name, are going to say, "I'm sorry, you already voted." And if that person says, "I didn't vote," we can then go back and we can look through all of our materials to be able to prove if they did or didn't.
Your envelope would have to have a signature.
And also your envelope will have to have a signature, very much like absentee voting. Thank you for that reminder. All right, so what happens after early voting? So at the end of each night, so with this election coming up, all 14 nights, the registrar of voters and myself will go get that locked box out of the early voting area. We open,
Okay, good.
and we open that box. We will then sort the ballots by district, and then we're going to count the total number of ballots per district, because we have to complete an affidavit. And on that affidavit, we're swearing that District 1 had this many, District 2 had that many, District 3 had that many. And then from there, it's going to go into a secured, locked bag with a seal number on it. And that seal number is also added to the affidavit. And from there, it goes up to the town clerk's office, where it's stored in my vault in an area where the public does not have access. And then on election day, I am responsible for bringing down all of these secured bags downstairs. So we need to do this between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. in the morning. And I hand over to the registrars and to the head moderator all of the affidavits and the bags, and they're going to go through and they're going to make sure that the seal number on those bags matches the number that was on the affidavit to make sure those bags had not been tampered with. And then they're going to open those bags individually by day, make sure all of the ballots count or are accounted for based on what was on the affidavit. And if everything matches, from there it goes to groups of counters who then open the envelopes and remove the ballots without looking at the person's name to offer that person, again, the privacy that they're guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. And then from there, they'll be opened up and then go to the tabulator where someone will insert them in the tabulator, much like you would do at the polls on election day. All right, so election day voting, that's our third type of voting. So as you all know, you're very familiar with this process probably. So our election is again on Tuesday, November 5th. Polls are open the same as always, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. All 7 locations will be open, and those are the locations on the screen. And same day voter registration is also available, but the only location where you can register to vote and then subsequently receive a ballot is at Town Hall. All right, assistance with casting your ballot. The voter has the right to receive help when they're voting from any person of their choosing. However, they cannot receive, by state law, assistance from the voter's employer, the agent of the voters' union, or from any candidate who appears on the ballot unless that candidate is your immediate family member. And I think from here, I'm going to let Anita take over.
Yep. All right, I move a little slower. Voter, if it's coming in and can't, like me with a cane or something, and you can't stand for long lengths of time, if you let the moderator or assistant that's there know, they can get a chair for you, and they will help you with it. They'll save your place so that when you get up to the polling place, it's your turn, they'll let you know so that you don't have to stand in line the whole time.
What is your microphone?
What was
Your
it?
microphone a little bit.
It's an, I didn't touch it, so it must be, it's
Yeah,
not,
close
oh,
it down.
oh, okay, sorry. The voter should speak to the polling place moderator about the challenges imposed with standing for long periods. The moderator may allow the voter to move to the front of the line or provide a chair to sit on. If provided a chair, the voter's place in line will be held, and a moderator will inform the voter of their turn to vote. Which one you got up now?
Curbside.
Curbside voting. Voters who are unable to access the polling place due to a temporary incapacity may request a ballot to be brought to them. A voter will show their identification card, and a ballot will be given to the voter. Voter will mark the ballot and then place the ballot in the privacy sleeve. Election officials will deliver the ballot in the privacy sleeve to the tabulator for counting. At no time shall the voter's right to privacy be violated. What has happened in the past with us is they call our office and say that something's happened, and then they're not going to be able to get out, but they want to vote. So what we've done is got their number, and we got find out where they're going to be voting, which district. Call that district and let them know that they'll be calling, give that they'll be coming. So what happens is 2 people go out, one Deb and one R, where there is usually the assistant registrars, and they will bring out the ballot with a privacy sleeve. Let the voter show their identification, vote their ballot, put it in the privacy sleeve so that nobody sees how they're voting, bring it back in and slide it into the scanner. And that has helped. We've had it happen a couple of times where we've had to do that. What's next? Oh yes, the IVS, the accessible voting device, enables voters with different disabilities, including visual impairment, to vote privately and independently. It features a touchscreen display and includes alternatives such as audio, tactile, keys, sip and puff, and jelly bean buttons available at the polls and during early voting. This is a special machine that, did you have that? Did you show the machine?
Is there internet on this computer?
Rebecca? Rebecca? We need help.
While we're waiting,
I didn't give it a shot, but.
while we're waiting, another thing that I might want to mention is that there, in each polling ballot box where the voter goes to cast their ballot, is a thing called voting instructions. It tells you how to mark your ballot, fill in the oval. And it's the oval that you have to fill in. And the oval is what is counted by the scanner at the end of the day. And if it doesn't get counted that way, the ballot might get thrown back out at you from the machine as you're trying to put it into the scanner, saying it's not, you know, nothing showing because you circled the outside of the circle instead of filling it in or something to that effect. So they may tell you to look at it. They can't look at it, but they tell you to look at it. Also, our scanners also show every voter as it goes into the machine, each ballot as it goes into the scanner. There's a number that goes upward, so it shows that your vote has been counted. Also, while we're still waiting, I brought the complete list of every active voter that we have on our list as of right now. So if anybody is not sure if they're registered to vote or not, or if they're at the correct address, I have a list, we can verify it for you, and we also have voter registration cards in case anybody needs to make any changes. That can be done here too today. Does anybody have any questions while we're waiting for this? Yes?
Are these ballots printed in foreign languages?
No, ours are all in English.
So if a person is, for example, in this community, we have Spanish-speaking people, who could probably be the majority of people that
We have access. There's a new, we haven't had to use it yet. It's a brand new system that the Secretary of State's office has bought. And they allow us to set it onto ours, and we have to pay so much per voter when they go on per minute. And it has, what's it, 100 and some odd languages? You could have any language you could possibly think of, and it'll come up. It goes to the polling place. Usually one of the workers is going to have to use their phone because it has to come in at that particular time. They access it, they pick up the language they want, and then that ballot is read to them.
It's read to them on the telephone,
Yes,
so then they can hear
Yes.
what the ballot is.
yes. It's a
Yeah.
brand new, we haven't used it yet because it's just brand new. It's just been accepted by the Secretary of State's office.
So is there, how many of these machines are there then?
It's
One?
no, the IVS ones that they're trying to grab it, there's one in every single district.
Okay.
This one for the foreign languages
For the foreign language.
is a state system
Okay.
that we have to
That you can
download.
access.
And then when we have the request for it, then it gets downloaded even more. We have not, it's brand new, so they showed us languages I've never heard of. One of them was Toru, T-O-R-U. It's a language, I don't know what country.
So does the way that work is if someone comes in and says, my mother wants to vote, she's a US citizen, but her native language is German.
Yeah.
Then one of the election workers would go on their phone.
No, they'd have to call us first.
They'll
because
call
then we
you.
have to access it and send it
Okay.
to them.
All right, so you access them, but then they will actually be able to pick up the telephone and hear what the ballot is while they're staying in the voting booth?
Correct.
All right, so they'll be able to hear the ballot in their language well, they see it in English in front of them in the voting booth. Is that correct?
Yes, that
That's what we were told.
correct. And also, there are visuals. You know, like if a person on the phone, on your cell phone, if we had to hold it up so that they could see the person talking to them in their native language, that is also accessible to it.
So you can do like a FaceTime, so you can
Yes, you
actually
can.
see them.
Yes, you can.
Yes,
There's one drop box for our town.
yes.
Okay, so it's election day, it's 8 o'clock at night, it's emptied one last time and then locked, so it can't
Right,
be used further?
that's exactly right. Anna goes down at 8 o'clock, when the polls close, to see what's in the box, and then locks the box for the night. Yes, and then she comes in with those, and then what we have to do, if there's any there, then we have to call the district that particular ballot belongs to see if they voted in person. So if they voted in person, then that ballot gets invalidated.
We're ready.
Yes.
Anita.
Oh, okay.
Here at the Secretary of the State's office, we have taken several steps to ensure no obstacles stand in the way of any Connecticut resident who is eligible to vote, including those who may face unique challenges in completing this important process. A voter-friendly ballot marking device is available for use at every polling station. This device features assistive technology for voters with a range of physical, sensory, cognitive, language, and literacy abilities. When you arrive at your polling location to vote, approach the moderator or a poll worker and request to use the accessible voting machine. Every polling place in Connecticut has one available for use during all hours of voting. The machine is a touchscreen laptop device and features two modes: a touchscreen display or audio navigation. For voters using the touchscreen display, you can easily navigate the ballot by clicking your selections. This process may be helpful for voters with restricted mobility or limited fine motor skills. When you press the name of the candidate you'd like to vote for, a red check mark will appear next to their name. To change your vote, simply press again to deselect the contest selection. Once ready, press Next Contest to proceed to vote in the remaining races on your ballot. When you finish your selections, press the Ballot Review button to view all of the selections you made. At this point, you can press any of the contests to change your vote. Once ready, press Print Ballot, and a ballot will be produced with all of your marked selections. A privacy sleeve will be available to protect your right to vote in private. This ballot may then be inserted into the tabulator to be counted, no differently than the hand-marked ballots. Additionally, depending on your abilities, a sip and puff device attachment is available for use to make your selections. For voters using the audio ballot, you will be provided a headset and then prompted by a series of audio cues to make selections on a tactile 12-button keypad. This process may be helpful for voters with visual impairment, as well as a wide range of cognitive and literacy abilities. Like the touchscreen process, you will be provided with the opportunity to review and revise your choices before your ballot is finalized and printed. If you need help to cast your ballot, you can have assistance, but not from your employer, agent of your employer, an agent of your union, or a candidate whose name appears on the ballot, unless the candidate is an immediate member of your family. As long as the individual does not qualify under one of the previous categories, someone may accompany you in the polling place and voting booth to assist you with the voting process if needed. For more information on resources and accommodations for voters in Connecticut, visit myvote.ct.gov/accessible.
Anyone have any questions on that?
Is there another video?
Nope, that's it.
We done?
We're done.
Okay, Agnes, I'm sure at your point, it's
Oh, are
time.
you guys? Wow.
What you see here on the slide is basically the most important thing in the world. The vote is precious. It is almost sacred. It is the most powerful, non-violent tool we have in a democracy. Every vote counts. Windsor had an election that resulted in a tie. Oh God, do I remember that?
Yes.
Oh.
We all do.
You have a right to vote. A right to vote, your say, and you need to use it. That's very important. What the League of Women Voters mission is to educate the voters. And so we try to make it accessible, make the information as accessible as we possibly can. We have put together, with the help of all of these lovely ladies and the Secretary of State's and the State League of Women Voters, the CVS window. If you go down to CVS, which I'm sure almost all of you will, down on Broad Street, in the front window right there, there is all information about voting. Almost everything that was said here and a little bit more is down there. Some interesting stuff is there too. And yeah, the kind of history type stuff. So you'll find it very interesting. So I do suggest and recommend that when you go down to CVS, swing by and look at it. It will help you remember things if you've forgotten after all of this wonderful information, and we have our brains full of things. The other things that we do is we will be at Northwest Park this coming Saturday. We will have information like this. We will have voter registration cards. You will be able to, so tell your family and friends. You'll be able to fill out a voter registration card there. We have an envelope that we put it in, and then we give it to our registrars to register. So you'll have ability to register at that point in time. We also provide a large visuals like the map, so that you can actually identify what district you are and then where your polling place is. The other thing we do is we supply information you'll find on the table, just as a recap of everything that our wonderful ladies, our town clerks and our registrars have said. We also have them provide the same information in bulletins so that you can take them home and you can read them. Because we know that the minute, well, I know with me, the minute I walk out of here, it's like, where's the information in my brain? Have to dig hard. So I write everything down, or I pick something up that I can actually read. The other thing that the League does is we provide a candidates night. We've been doing this now, well, I've been in the League for over 50 years, so we've been doing candidates night during every election. We do the candidates night for the candidates that are, we aren't going to be able to get Kamala or Donald. We tried, but their schedules are just too busy, and we are just too blue of a state that they aren't going to come to. But we do have our candidates, and they will all be there. And this year, for the Senate race, it will be in the 2nd Senatorial. And the 2nd Senatorial, can I move over here? Mm-hmm. Okay. The 2nd Senatorial is all of these districts. It's every district except for District 7. And that is Doug McCory and Christie Hoffman. Christie Hoffman is on town council now. She's the Republican, and Doug McCory is the incumbent. He's the incumbent. The 7th Senatorial, which is this section right in here, that's John Kissel. He's been on it for a long time. He's the Republican, and he is his opponent is Cynthia Mangini. Then we have 2 House districts. We have the 5th House district. That's Miriam Kahn, and that is these 4 districts.
No, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3. These. 1, 2, and 3. Excuse me, I'm wrong. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. These 2.
Yeah, well, purple
And then
is
this one.
Purple is 1, the yellow is 2, and the green is 3. Yeah, you were right.
I was right.
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So these districts, and that's Miriam Kahn, and she actually does not have an opponent. So she's running unopposed. Then the last is the 6th Senatorial, and that's everything else in the town.
It's the 60th.
Excuse me, you're right. It's the 60th. And that is Jane Garibay and Lenworth Walker. And Lenworth Walker is here. He's come to see us, so he's there. So if you'd like to get up to talk to him, you certainly are more than welcome to. Our candidates night will be Wednesday, October 16th at 6 p.m. at the Windsor Town Hall. We will also be having that streamed on Windsor Win TV. We give Win TV, and Win TV will be playing that. We give them the whole thing, and then they will play it through Election Day. But we also have it streaming that night on the Windsor stream, windsor.gov or whatever it is. You know, where you stream to see the council meetings. That will be streaming. So that's what we try to do too, is what's important to us is to educate the voters and to make the information as accessible as we possibly can. Now, do we have questions? We have information over here, and we have sample ballots for you. So that's always good to have the sample ballot to take a look at it. Do we have questions? Right here.
The Canada night, is food provided?
Yes, food is provided because feed them and they will come. So yes, food is beverages and refreshments. Actually, it's co-sponsored. We have been very, very fortunate over the past 10, 15 years. We've had 3 wonderful co-sponsors with the Windsor, with the League Room of Voters. It's Windsor CT Gov, and the other one is the Connecticut Chamber. And Steve Picaro is going to be our moderator this year, who is president of the chamber. Any other questions? Who else has a question? Excellent.
Good morning. Thank you for all coming. You mentioned that the absentee ballot box is next to the tax box. Has anyone secured that tax box so that you don't inadvertently drop your ballot in the tax box instead of the absentee ballot box?
Well, the tax box is open in case there is somebody who wants to pay taxes. So it's not closed during that period, but I can assure you that the tax collector goes out every day as well, and if there is something in there, they would provide that to us. And in the 4 years that we've had this, we have not had anybody put their application or ballot in there. Yep. Is there any other questions?
The emergency ballot, is that for so many days prior to the election?
So his question was, is the emergency ballot only for so many days prior to the election? And that is correct. It's 6 days. So starting the Wednesday prior through the day, and it's the only day I can issue typically I cannot issue an absentee ballot on the day of the election. But an emergency ballot I can issue on the day of the election if someone meets the criteria that we talked about, and that's either going into the hospital, nursing home, or falls and breaks their leg, or finds themselves sick, and they thought they could go to the polls, but they can't.
That was going to be my next. I intended to go, but.
Yes, and I just want to remind everyone, it's a lot of legwork for whoever you designate, especially on election day, for them to be running back and forth. So be certain to pick someone who is reliable and will be willing to do the many trips that's involved.
At least 4 trips.
Yeah.
And we have had that in the years I've been involved, in the years Anna's been involved. We have every now and then someone ends up sick and in the hospital. But it's 4 trips.
Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Well, thank you so much for coming out. Again, if you hear any information out there and you're uncertain, please don't pass that information along. Just give us a call and we'll be happy to help you and give you the correct information to make sure that everyone is informed with the right information. Again, Election Day is November 5th, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Early voting starts on October 21st, runs through November 3rd, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. 2 extended days of extended hours rather on October 29th and October 31st. And starting tomorrow, you can get an absentee ballot, and that means you can even come up to my office and vote right in person and then be done. And we will have that, we'll secure that ballot for you, and then on Election Day, we will cast that ballot for you. So thank you so much for coming out, and thank you to Anita, Victoria, and Agnes as well.